Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. Okay, last session we have started that supplier transactions. We completed up to supplier payments. Today we will start from supplier adjustments. Sorry, allocate payment. Now, when we generate supplier outstanding report, you may see sometimes there may be minor. Okay, now you can see there are pluses and minus. That is because we haven't allocated our supplier payments to supplier invoices. Actually, we cannot, sometimes we cannot allocate supplier transaction because sometimes before enter the invoice. In that case, we cannot allocate that supplier payment to relevant invoice. Therefore, we will use supplier allocation. From supplier allocation, we will do now, for an example, if we first enter supplier advances, then we will enter supplier invoices. After that, we can set off that advance payment to that supplier invoice. Okay. Mainly, we are using supplier allocations if we couldn't allocate supplier invoices and supplier payments. This supplier allocation is now if we generate supplier outstanding report, now you can see there are in this CA cell there are plus 3,000 and minus 3,000. That means if we generate outstanding report, if we not allocated particular payment to an invoice, it will show, it will display two lines, two separate lines. For one is for invoice and one for payment. Now, if we allocated these payments system in outstanding report, it will not show this invoice and payment. Okay, to generate accurate reports, it's better to allocate that. If we have pending invoices and pending invoices and payments, it's better to allocate those unallocated transactions in the system. Okay, we can allocate transactions from suppliers transactions, allocate payments. Okay, from here under supplier, we can select our supplier and click on refresh. Then you can see left side invoices available, right side payments, 0 invoice. Now we want to allocate this payment to this invoice. For allocate, we can select this payment and we can drag and drop to this invoice. Okay, we can drag and drop this payment to this invoice. Now, when you are select this payment, you can see that there are maybe red color icon, or when we go to that invoice, that color will change to green. Okay, Now here, once selected draw, it's red color. Now it will change to green color. Now you can drag and drop that payment to the invoice. Okay. Now you cannot see any unallocated payments in right side. Now this payment has allocated to this SIV 000100 invoice. Now you can see this total amount is 3,000 and due amount is 0. Okay. I'll unallocate it again. Now here this invoice total amount is 3,000, due amount is 3,000. Now we are allocating this payment to the invoice. Now we have allocated, total is 3,000, due is 3,000. Okay, now we have allocated. Now and now here CSL has 4 transactions in outstanding statement. You can see 4 transactions in CSL supplier. Now we have allocated, and if we refresh this report, we can select that supplier and select style as detail and refresh. Now here only 2 invoices. That payment will not display in this outstanding report because we have allocated that payment to a supplier invoice. Okay. Now again, if we open that supplier transaction or supplier allocation, now okay, like that you can allocate, and I'll explain options of this allocation. First one is show outstanding. Allocations will display only outstanding invoices. Now if you untick this option and refresh, it will display outstanding invoices. You can see due amounts, and if you click this plus mark, you can view what is the payment. Okay, here you can see that PAY 00082 and 83. Now 82 allocated to this SIV 99 invoice, supplier invoice, and 83 allocated to this 100 supplier invoice. Okay, first option is show outstanding only. If you take this option, system will display only outstanding invoices or unsettled invoices. If you untick this option and refresh, system will display all invoices of that supplier. Okay, next one, display. There are 3 options. First one, all invoices. If you select this option, system will display all invoices. Then next option is invoices between. Now from here you can select a date range, and then system will display on those date range. Now we will select we will select a date range. Okay, now we have selected 1st of June 2020 to 30th June 2020. 20. Now here system will display only that range invoices only. Then third option is specific invoice number. If you enter specific invoice number and refresh, system will display only that invoice number only. Okay, right. Then assume now we have allocated one invoice and allocated incorrect payment to a particular invoice. Now, for an example, we want to unallocated this payment from this invoice. Okay, if you want to unallocated any payment, or if you want to change that allocated payment, you can deselect again or unallocated again. You can select that first you can click this plus mark, then that payment will drop to right side. Okay, now again this invoice 99 invoice, total is 3000 and due amount also 3000. Here also you can view this payment, supplier payment, unused value is 3000. That means we have unallocated that payment from this invoice. Okay, now assume this one also incorrect, we will unallocate this payment also. Now we have now we want to allocate this 82 payment voucher to this 100 invoice and this 83 payment to 99 invoice. Okay, later if you identify if it is incorrectly allocated, you can unallocate again and you can allocate to correct invoice. Okay, now there's another option, split unallocated item amount. From here, we can allocate specific amount to an invoice. Now assume we want to allocate this 6000. We will drop to this 99 invoice. Now system will ask what is the value we want to allocate for this invoice. Now initially we just drag and drop, then it will settle. Now we want to split. If you want to split a payment to invoices, you can tick this option and you can drag and drop these payments. Now system will ask allocation amount. So we are allocating 1000 for this invoice. Now you can see total invoice amount is 3000, due amount 2000 because we have allocated only 1000. Now from this payment also, total is 6000, unused value is 5000. Okay, assume now again we want to allocate 1000 for this 100 invoice. And 1000 for this 101 and 3000 for this 102 invoice. Okay, now this payment voucher 83 fully settled for these invoices. Now, if you want to split any payment to few invoices, you can tick this option, split unallocated item amount, and you can allocate. Okay, now we will unallocate all payments and we will generate this output again. Now you can see there are few invoices, plus amounts and minus amounts. Now initially when we generate this report, it has only 2 transactions. Now we have unallocated all transactions from that supplier. Now it will display all transactions. Okay. If you want to again allocate this transaction, you can allocate. Okay, you can drag and drop, then system will allocate this payment to invoices. Okay, after okay, is it clear? If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, now normal process is now when we are doing that, first we enter the supply invoice, later we will enter the supplier payment. Now sometimes we will pay advance amount, then later we will enter the invoice. In that case, we have when we are entering advance payment, we cannot select or we cannot allocate payment. Therefore, we will use this supplier allocations. From supplier allocation, we can allocate unsettled payments to invoices. Then system will allocate particular payment to a particular invoice. Okay, from allocating this transaction, unsettled transaction, we can generate accurate reports from the system. Okay, now if we haven't allocate, it will display all transactions. Then it will display all transactions standing. Therefore, it's better to allocate if you haven't allocate any payment to a supplier invoice. Okay, and there are few options. First one is show outstanding only. If you tick this option, system will display only outstanding invoices. And there are 3 other options, display options. First one, all invoices. If you select this option, system will display all invoices. And if you select invoices between, and you can define a date range, and system will display invoices from this range. And third option is specific invoice number. You can enter specific number here and you can search. And also there's another option, split unallocated item amount. If you tick this option, you can specify a particular payment to which invoices you are going to split. Okay, after you set allocate these payments, you can save. Then it will, those transactions line will not display in this outstanding report. Okay, now you can enter, you can try these allocations. First, if you haven't few transaction or 3-4 transaction in your system, you can enter few invoices and you can enter few supply payments. Then you can check these allocation reports, allocations, and you can generate this supplier outstanding report. Okay, you can check this split allocations also, and you can check this display options. Okay, you can take 15 minutes, and if you haven't entered any transaction to supplier payments or supplier invoices, you can enter few transactions and you can check this allocation. If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, hope you have completed that supply allocation. If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, next we will move to supplier adjustments. Go to suppliers, transactions, supply adjustments. Okay, we can use these supply adjustments sometimes in after audit or due to some user errors we need to enter or we need to change that supplier balances. Sometimes most of the time after audit entries we need to change some suppliers balances. In that case we can use these supplier adjustments to enter that transaction. You can click add supplier adjustment. From here we can select the supplier. Then system will display the balance of that supplier, and from this effect we can increase or decrease supplier balance. Now if you want to increase supplier balances, you can select this increase, or if you want to decrease supplier balance, you can select decrease. Okay, if you select increase, the transaction will be supplier or trade payables will credit, and if you select decrease, trade payables will debit. Okay, and from here if you want you can select that tax type, and from by affecting account you need to select the other entry or other GL account. You are going to pass that GL entry. Okay, for an example here we will select advertising, and you need to enter that reference number. If you are passing from this journal entry, you can enter that audit journal entry number. From exclusive amount, you can enter that amount. You are going to adjust if tax available. System will calculate the tax amount and calculate the total amount. And from description, you can enter any description you want to enter to the transaction, and comment also you can enter. From date, you can select that transaction date. Okay, and if you want to allocate this transaction to particular analysis code, from here by clicking this analysis code you can select that analysis code. And if you select decrease from this effect, it will display these outstanding invoices, and if you increase, it will not display outstanding invoices, and you can process the transaction. Okay, and there's another option. Now assume you want to do more than one transaction or more than one supplier adjustment. In that case, you can use this quick entry grid. Then if you want, you can enter by manually, or you can import that supplier adjustment from CSV file. Okay, from here you can select that date, transaction date, then effect, supplier, reference, description, tax amount and amount by affecting account. Like this, you can enter more than one adjustment if you use supplier adjustment from this quick entry grid. And you can process this supplier adjustments. And if you want to import from a CSV file, you can click this import. And first, you can, if you want, you can download an example. You can fill this Excel sheet according to your requirement or your supplier adjustment. You can enter date, supplier, and reference number, description, tax code, exclusive amount, tax amount, inclusive amount. And from here, you can select that affecting account. If analysis code is available, you can enter that analysis code and you can import this Excel sheet to the system. Okay, I think you couldn't see that Excel sheet. I'll share it again. Now from here, this downloaded Excel sheet, from here you can enter that transaction date, supplier, and reference numbers of that journal entries or any other entry. And you can enter description, tax type, exclusive amount, tax amount, total, and affecting account, comments. And if analysis code available, you can enter that analysis code. And you can import that file to the system. Okay, I'll repeat it again, that supply adjustment. Now, if you want to change your supplier balances, you can enter supplier adjustments. You can enter supply adjustment from supplier transactions, supply adjustments. There are two options. First one, add supply adjustment. Second one, quick integrate. If you are doing only one supply adjustment, you can use add supply adjustment. From here, you can select the supplier. And you can select increase or decrease from this effect. If you want to increase your supply balances, you can select increase, or if you want to decrease supply balance, you can select decrease. And you can select tax type. You can select by affecting account. other entry of this transaction, and you can enter reference number, amount, description and comment, and from here you can select that transaction date. Okay. If you select decrease, if that supplier has outstanding invoices, you can select that outstanding invoice and you can process this transaction. And if you want to enter more than one transaction, you can use this quick entry grid. From here you can add adjustment lines, and if you want to import transactions, you can use this import, and you can import by selecting a file. Okay, and after that you can process this customer or supplier adjustments. Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, now you can enter few supply adjustments. If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay. Now we have completed up to supply adjustment. These output tax adjustments and input tax adjustments is not relevant for Sri Lanka. And now we have completed supplier transactions. If you have any questions in supplier transactions, you can ask. Is it clear, or you have any doubt? You can ask, or you can send a message. Okay, next we will move to supplier reports. Go to suppliers reports. From here, you can generate following reports. Okay, first we will go to list of suppliers. From this list of suppliers, we can just generate a report, supplier report. Okay, we can generate that supplier name, category, active, and supplier balances. You can set filters from here, from supplier. If you want to select a supplier, you can select. Or if you want to select range of suppliers, you can select that from supplier and to supplier. Or if you haven't select any supplier, system will display all suppliers. Okay, then active. From here, you can select active, inactive, or both suppliers. Then from category, from here, we can select supplier categories. From style, we can select summary or detail. And if you want to add, or if you want to include user-defined fields, you can tick this show user-defined fields tick box. And you can generate this report. This report you can save as PDF, CSV, Excel, or if you want, print or email these reports. Okay, next we'll move to purchases by supplier. Here also you can select supplier or range of suppliers or all suppliers, and you can view active or inactive suppliers or both suppliers, and you can select supplier categories. From here, report date range, you can select date range, you can select monthly. Now if you select monthly, you can see this date range, quarterly, yearly or month to date, quarter to date, live to date, and you can select last month, last quarter, year to date, or you can select custom dates. If you select custom date, you can select date range according to your requirement, or you can select all transactions. And there's another option, include supplier returns. If you tick this option, supplier returns also include in this report, then it will deduct that purchases from these suppliers. And from style, you can select summary or detailed report. If you include supplier returns, it will now, for an example, if you purchase 1,000 quantity and you have returned 100 quantity, then it will display that 900 net amount. And if you are not include this supplier return, it will display only purchases or supplier invoices only. Now, you can see the difference between two reports. If you select detail, system will display each supplier invoices line items also. If you select summary, it will display only that invoice summary. That means one line for one supplier invoice. Now here we will select detail. Then system will display each invoice line items also, it will display. Now if you select summary, it will not display items of that supplier invoice. It will display only that supplier invoice date, number, quantity, and total only. It will display total quantity and total amount of that purchases. If you select detail, it will display each item-wise quantity and amounts. Next, supply balances, days outstanding. From here, we can generate a report as a date. From here, we can select the date and we can select suppliers. We can select one supplier, range of suppliers, or all suppliers. And from category, we can select supplier category. And from status, we can select active suppliers, inactive suppliers, or both active and inactive suppliers. And from style, we can select summary or detail. And there's another option, exclude. If you tick on this option, zero balances suppliers will not display in the report. And last one, use foreign currency. If you tick this option, that supplier balances will display in supplier's currency. Okay, now we will generate report. By clicking this view report, you can generate the report. Now, we have select this or we tick this use foreign currency. Now you can see these some suppliers currency will be not LKR. This currency is AED and dollars. Likewise, different currencies RM in this report. This is because we select this use foreign currency. And if you want to view this supplier outstanding in home currency or LKR, you can untick this option. Now you can see this all balances will display in LKR. And one more thing, if you select use foreign currency, you cannot view grand total of this supplier outstanding report. And if you untick this use foreign currency, you can view this grand total also. And this has age buckets, total due, current period, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and 120 days plus days. Now here we have generated summary report. You can generate that detailed report also. If you select detail, system will display each supplier's transaction-wise report. Now here you can view there are 2 transactions. Okay, now you can see this here exclude option. Here this AA second supplier has supplier balance is 0. Now you can see 2 invoices, they are 100, 2,500, and there's the payment also 2,600. We haven't allocate these transaction, therefore it will display invoices and payments separately. Now this supply balance is 0. If you want to exclude that 0 balances suppliers, you can take this option. Then system will not display that 0 balances suppliers. Okay, and this report also you can export a PDF, Excel, CSV, or you can print or email. Okay. Now you can check these 3 reports: list of suppliers, purchases by supplier, and supplier balances, days outstanding report. If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, is it clear? If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, next we will move to supplier statement. From here, we can generate that supplier transactions. You can select suppliers and active or inactive suppliers. You can select supplier categories. And from here, you can select that date range. And there are report options. First one, show balance brought forward. Now, if you are select any date range, if you tick this option, system will display balance brought forward before this date. And if you want to exclude fully allocated invoices, you can tick this option. Then system will display only outstanding transactions only. And if you want to generate this statement in foreign currency or supplier's currency, tick on use foreign currency. Then system will display currency in supplier's currency. Then exclude suppliers where balances are zero. If you tick this, zero balances suppliers will not display. And if you tick negative, negative balances suppliers also will not display. And if you tick this less than, and if you give any amount, then system will not display that less than this amount. If you enter 5,000, system will not display less than 5,000 suppliers. And also, if you tick this option less than, other options will be that zero and negative will be deactivated. Okay, now you have ticked this option zero and negative. If you tick less than, these two deactivated. Okay, now you can generate the report. Okay, now for each supplier, there will be a one page for each supplier. You can view number of pages from here. And you can save this report to PDF, CSV or Excel, and you can print or email. Right, next we will move to supplier transactions. Here also you can view each supplier transactions, that supplier purchase, supplier invoices, payments, adjustments, those things you can view from this supplier transactions report. First, you need to select the date range, and you can select suppliers, and you can select category. From status, you can select active or inactive suppliers or both suppliers. And from transaction type, you can select a particular transaction or particular transaction type, such as supplier adjustment, supplier invoice, supplier opening balance, supplier payments, or supplier return. If you select this select transaction type, system will display all transaction types. And if you tick use foreign currency, system will display in supplier's currency. Okay, from here you can view that opening balance and supplier transactions, closing balance, movement for the period. System will display supplier invoices, returns, payments, and here system will not display these supplier purchase orders because there in purchase orders there's no accounting transaction. Okay, it's just a document, there's no any accounting transactions, therefore supplier purchase orders will not display in supplier transactions report. And you can view grand total of this report. Okay, now you can check these two reports, supplier statement and supplier transaction reports. Okay. Next, we will move to supplier purchase orders report. From supplier purchase orders report, we can generate supplier purchase orders. From here, from date range, we can select a date range. And we can select suppliers, category, supplier category, active, inactive suppliers. And from this document status, we can select confirmed purchase orders, cancelled purchase orders, pending purchase orders, overdue purchase orders, invoice purchase orders. And if you select all, system will display all purchase orders. And if you tick use foreign currency, system will display amounts in supplier's currency. After enter these details, you can click view reports. Then from here, you can view purchase orders in this date range. You can view date, delivery date, reference, order number, supplier, exclusive amount, tax amount, total amount, and status of this purchase order. Now you can see invoice purchase orders, confirmed, overdue, cancelled purchase orders will display here. Okay. This report also you can export PDF, Excel, or CSV and print or email. Next, we will move to supplier purchase orders by supplier. Here also you can select suppliers or supply categories, and from date range, date range, you can select a date range, and from style you can select summary or detail. From status, you can select the status of that purchase order, and if you take this use foreign currency, system will display amounts in supplier's currency. Now you can see the report. Now the difference between those two reports, that supplier purchase orders reports and supplier purchase orders by supplier. Now this purchase order report, it's a list of purchase orders, and this supplier purchase orders by supplier report, it will categorize purchase orders by this supplier. Okay, now here it will sort according to that purchase order number, but here it will categorize according to supplier name. And if you select style as detail, then system will display each purchase orders item wise list. Now here you can view only summary report, you can view only total quantity and total amount, But if you select detail, you can view each item-wise quantity and amounts. Okay, now you can view that, or you can generate that purchase orders reports. And if you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, next we will move to supplier invoices report. Go to supplier reports, select supplier invoices. From here, we can generate a list of supplier reports, list of supplier invoices. You can select the date range, and you can select suppliers, category. You can select that supplier status, active or inactive. And if you tick supplier invoices, then system will include that supplier returns also. And if you want to view the report in foreign currency or supplier's currency, you can tick use foreign currency. Okay, you can view list of supplier invoices. This report include date, document number, supplier invoice number, supplier name, due date of this supplier invoice, anticipated payment date, exclusive amount, tax amount, total purchase, and total outstanding of that invoice. And of supplier invoices grid. You can add columns from here, customize grid. You can tick these columns, then it will display in this grid. And also you can sort this report from these headings, and you can download to a CSV file. Purchase orders also same. You can generate this purchase order report from this supplier purchase orders grid. You can add or you can customize grid from here. You can add or remove fields, and you can sort by clicking these headings, ascending or descending order, and you can download to a CSV file. Okay, now you can generate that supply invoice report. Okay, next report is supplier unallocated payments. From this report, you can generate, if you haven't allocated any payments to an invoice, you can view that unallocated payments. Now, in our previous example, when you're allocating supply payments, we have that 3,000 unallocated amount. From here, from payment, you can view that total amount of payment, and from unallocated column, you can view how much you haven't allocated to an invoice. Okay, from here also you can select date range, supplier category, and if you want to include supplier returns and adjustments, you can tick this option. Then unallocated supplier returns and adjustments also will display. You can allocate that in addition to that supplier payments, you can allocate supplier returns and supplier adjustment to a supplier invoice. Okay, now you can see here return, this RTN is return. These returns also, supplier returns also, you can allocate to a supplier invoice. Now you can check these reports. Supplier unallocated payment report. And if you want to allocate any payments to supplier, you can generate this report, and you can check pending unallocated or pending unallocated payments, and you can open this suppliers and you can set off that payments to a invoice. Okay, next report is that last report is email sent to suppliers. From here you can view emails sent to your suppliers. Okay, from here you can select suppliers and supplier category, and from report options, date range, you can select date range and you can view report. From here you can view that email date, sent from which company or which user, and supplier you send that email, and recipient email address, type or document type, and document number. Sometimes in your system you may not able to view this, or you may not able to send emails because that Sage has logged that email sending for free trial versions. Therefore sometimes you are not able to send emails from this system. Okay, now we have completed all reports. If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, next we will move to final section of this supply module, that adjust opening balances. Go to suppliers, special, adjust opening balances. Now when we are implementing the system, we may enter that opening balance of that suppliers, and later we identify that balance is not correct. In that case we can change that opening balance. For change that opening balance, either you can use that supplier adjustment, or you can use this adjust opening balances. Okay, you can select that supplier name. Then you can enter why you are changing this opening balance. Now here system will display current opening balance, and if you want to change this opening balance, you can change that opening balance amount, and you can select that opening balance as that date. And if you save, that supplier's opening balance will be changed. Now here initial opening balance is 500,000. You want to change to 400,000. You can enter that 400,000 in new opening balance section, and you can save this opening balance. Okay, due to inaccuracy of that previous reports or some management decisions, you may need to change that supplier opening balances. In that case, you can use this special section and enter opening balance adjustment. You can select that supplier name and enter reason why you are changing this opening balance, and you can enter the new opening balance and you can save this transaction. Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, now we have completed the supply section or supply module. If you have any questions, you can ask, or you can refer previous videos. I think Snellmani has already shared that all videos. So you can refer or you can watch previous videos, and if you have any doubt or if you want to clarify anything, you can ask before the session or after the session. Okay, we will wind up for today. Now we have completed 5 sessions. We have to do 10 more sessions. That 10 session we will complete other modules, and we will complete this report designing parts also. Okay, then thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you so much, Mr. Channa.
Okay, come.